if the defendants will rise. And Madam Clerk, if you will publish the verdicts.
State of South Carolina versus Rita M. Pangalagan. Indictments number 2019 GS 1500781, 2022 GS 1500710, 2022 GS 1500814. We, the jury, in the above caption, on the charge of murder of Christina Ann Pangalagan, find the defendant guilty.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
We, the jury, in the above captioned case, on the charge of great bodily injury of the child, we find the defendant guilty.
Oh my God!
We, the jury, in the above captioned case, on the charge of criminal conspiracy, find the defendant not guilty. And it's signed by the foreperson.
Yes.
Signed by
No,
the foreperson.
you don't need to call the name of the foreperson. Signed by the foreperson. Do not.
Signed by the foreperson.
Yes.
State of South Carolina versus Larry Eugene King. Indictments 2019 GS 1500780, 2022 GS 1500709, and 2022 GS 1500813. We, the jury, in the above captioned case on the charge of murder of Christina Ann Pangalagan, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, in the above captioned case on the charge of great bodily injury on a child, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, in the above captioned case on the charge of criminal conspiracy, find the defendant not guilty. This is also signed by the foreperson.
Thank you. Madam Forelady, and members of the jury, if that is your verdict, please let it be known by raising your right hands. All right, thank you. All hands are raised. The verdict appears to be a unanimous verdict. Any individual polling requested?
No, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Madam Clerk, if you will poll the jury as relates to the verdicts involving Ms. Pangalagan. Just juror numbers, stand individually and pose the questions to them. Is this your verdict, and it's still your verdict? Numbers, yes.
Madam foreperson, jury number 3, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 147, is this your verdict? Is it still your verdict? Jury number 56, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict? Yes. Jury number 5, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 77, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict? Jury number 339, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 58, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 450, is this your verdict? Is it still your verdict? Jury number 32, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 12, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Jury number 422, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict? And jury number 253, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict? Your Honor, the jury has been polled.
The jury has been polled. It's unanimous verdict of guilt. Any post-trial motions?
Yes, Your Honor. We remove all prior motions, mistrial motions, every other pretrial, mistrial, and I'll go specifically through them at the appropriate time. We do all my.
Yes, sir.
No objection.
All right.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
plus, I renew all my trial motions as well as post-trial. Subsequent to state motions. All my motions.
All right, thank you. Any response by the state?
No, sir.
All right, the matters were properly submitted to the jury for the jury's consideration. They studied the evidence carefully. The evidence was appropriately placed before them for their consideration. They have reached a verdict that is unanimous, and the court respectfully denies each motion made by each defendant.
And would require this time to move for a new trial as well.
Yes, sir. And the court likewise denies a motion for new trial as to each defendant. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all. I know you all didn't know what you had in store coming in here Monday, and you might have come in as spectators and all of a sudden got thrown into the mix and realized that the burden was totally on your shoulders to listen to the evidence and stay focused and go back and deliberate to reach a verdict. Quite obviously, it's a heart-wrenching set of facts and circumstances, extremely terrible, almost unimaginable, but yet these are the facts of life that we have to deal with in today's environment. Some things occur that are so extreme you just wouldn't believe or couldn't hardly believe it to be true, that you've realized through listening to this case that these things happen, and it happened in this case. And I want to thank you for responding to the call of duty, and serving as jurors played a very important and critical function. Certainly, if you had to find yourself being involved in a trial one way or the other, you'd love to have 12 jurors who listen, who take the job seriously, who deliberated and render a verdict. And I want to thank each and every one of you. Now, Mr. Engineer, what type of engineer are you? Mechanical. My daughter's a civil, and presided in Aiken County, where there are a whole lot of engineers, and I usually tell the lawyers, don't put any engineers on the jury because they have a hard time. They analyze so much that that's being an engineer. So, but of course, I never tell her that. But that's the way it is, depending on your training and profession and your level of expectation on things. And I appreciate that. And that's what makes for a fair and impartial jury, to have people from all walks of life that can come in and deal with things. And our youngest young man, are you the youngest on the jury? I want to thank you for having confidence in yourself that you can be a juror and to do something that you probably didn't think you could do, but you did it. So I want to congratulate you and everyone else on the jury. I know that it wasn't easy for any of you, but that's our system, and our system at work. The case was investigated. The case was presented to the grand jury of this county. Then the case was presented to you all, and you all have made a decision. And I support your decision 100%. Now, when you find someone guilty, then it becomes my responsibility to impose a sentence. And are you all, do you need time to prepare for sentencing?
I'm ready to go. My client may need a minute to speak with me now.
Pardon?
I'm prepared, but my client may need a minute with me right prior to moving into the sentencing.
Okay, very good. And you all, well,
Understood.
I need to stay in the courtroom at this point, but certainly can confer with you want to transport people now? You banned him from the courtroom earlier. He's ready to, he's come back.
Well, just need to speak with you, Your Honor.
Okay, sure, absolutely. Take your time.
Thanks.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you have no role in sentencing. That's totally the responsibility of the judge. I have found that jurors typically like to see what happens all the way through the end of the case. I'm certainly in no rush to impose a sentence because this is such a tragic situation. And as people appear in court, they're typically, quite often not, they don't appear the same as they appear when they commit the crimes. But you're welcome to stay, and you can just be at ease for a moment while Mr. Phillips confers with his client. And I'll say that once you are off the jury, then you're free to talk about the case with anyone that you might want to talk with about it, but you're not obligated to talk with anyone. And if anyone should annoy, harass, or bother you in any way, let me know, and I'll take care of it. Any interference or threatening or bothering jurors is punishable as a serious crime, and we take those things seriously. I don't anticipate that you have anything to worry about, but we keep the identity of jurors private, except for the forelady. And but you're certainly welcome to talk to anyone that you might want to. And, so we're going to take. Are you ready now?
If Your Honor's not dismissing the jury, I guess we will.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to dismiss them. They're free to go or free to stay. We'll just be at ease for just a moment. We'll step out for just a moment. You'll be at ease for a moment.
All rise.
So they're preparing for sentence. Woo! Boo Sheet said, how long has the jury been out? They're back. They found them both guilty. Now we're waiting on the judge to return with the sentence. Vicky said sounded like a scary movie. Did to me too. Joy said life for a life. I agree. I love you, C Star. And the jury came back fast. Suzanne said watching that 5-hour video was horrific. I couldn't finish it. Nope. Me either. And we only had a snippet of it on the show yesterday. And I'm thinking how hard it was just for me to watch what I saw. They were right there and did nothing.
From the state.
Your Honor, I don't believe that there's anything I can add that you don't already know. You've seen this case, you've seen all the evidence, as has the jury. I don't believe there's anything I can add to that other than just my opinion, which is it is one of the worst things I've seen in my 30 years as a prosecutor. And I think they tortured this child. I think she died by being tortured to death. And I think the appropriate penalty is life in prison for both of these people.
Any victims want to say, do you have any victims here who might want to speak?
We have a
Or
few
victims representatives, yeah.
Yes, sir. We have a few family members. We've talked with them, and they do not wish to address. I believe I will check one more time, but I do not believe.
If you want to identify for the record, family members.
There's some family members here, but they do not want to address you. They don't want to address the court.
Do you want to identify them for the record or no?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. For the defense.
Your Honor, I can bring Mr. King forward with prepared for sentencing at any time. We prefer to have our own sentencing hearing as opposed to side by side.
You surprised to prefer to do what?
To have an individual hearing in front of the court for sentencing rather than two of us come forward, Mr. King, rather stand up.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Oh, should I bring him in?
We'll bring him forward for sentencing, but you can speak to me now, and I may speak to him as well.
Your Honor, and our presentation is not going to be long. Mr. King has testified, so you know something of his background and his history. What the solicitor says there's not much that he can add, because Mr. King has not lived a life of crime. He doesn't, to my best of my knowledge, he has no gender sexual history. There's a couple maybe drinking in public or something like that, but that is the extent of it. Mr. King is also not the type of person who's not going to accept responsibility. I felt like he made a good impression on the court in this candidate. He told things that were both bad for him, arguably as well as good for him. He put it all out there, and he accepts the judgment of the court of the jurors in the court today. Unlike many folks that I have stood with in the courtrooms, when the verdict came in, and it came in forward for him, he took it on his feet. He didn't say a word. When he sat down, he turned to me, shook my hand, and said, "Thank you. I know you tried your best for me." And then he turned to Mr. Gatch and shook his hand and said, "Thank you." He doesn't make excuses. He accepts responsibility. I want you to know he has been supported in court by his family. He's not one of those people like you see so many of in court of general sessions who has burned every bridge and just drop no friends, no family, etc. He has maintained connection. I spoke with him on the phone yesterday talking about this proceeding. He told me don't worry about him. He was having a good day. His grandson was with him, and he got to play with him and hold him, and that's what he wanted to I know how terrible this child died, and I felt like I conceded that to the jury at the outset. I also know to a large degree how Mr. King has lived his life up to that point and how he's lived it since. And although he is convicted of murder, I will submit to the court that the overall evidence, the total picture that you should have of Mr. King at this point is just not of an evil man. As you heard from the witness stand, he did go subsequent to this instance, moved into a halfway house or treatment facility in Spartanburg. He reconnected with his own religion. Says he's been clean for 2 years and he's clean here today. Judge, I understand and he understands what limited latitude the court really has here today as far as sentencing goes. That is from a 30-year to a life sentence on the murder charge. And obviously the other charge will just roll into that, I suspect. You've got unlimited, you've got from now to the end of time with the murder charge. I would submit to you, and I don't know if at 46 years old, which is how old Mr. King is, it'll make a ton of difference in the long run. I think he is worthy of some consideration from the court, and I believe he should come in on the low end with that, and that's a 30-year sentence. I know that Mr. King wants to address you personally. He hasn't reviewed his remarks with me, but he's asked me if he addressed Your Honor. Is Your Honor prepared to hear from him?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I just wanted to apologize to the court, to the family, Christina. I'm truly sorry that the day that goes by that I don't live with them. I want to say too, drugs will poison your mind and ruin your life. And I've learned that, and I've learned too that you got to stand and stick by the ones that love you and want what's best, and run from the ones that don't. I'm just grateful for God's undeserved grace. Thank you.
Your Honor, I believe that's our presentation.
All right. Any reply from the state regarding Mr. King?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to show the state I have a list of character letters I'd like to hand up to Your Honor. A lot of family and friends. She has an incredible family support system, friend system, and many of them have provided letters in support and mitigation. And I'll wait to give Your Honor an opportunity to review this. A lot of letters, so.
First letter, I know this wouldn't have happened if she wasn't with Larry King. She's paid for her mistakes. She's been working and recently was married. She's not a criminal. She's a good person. She's not a criminal. Please don't let this one stupid mistake define who Rita really is. Please consider leniency, Judge. So that's one of about how many, kind of number there.
We also have family and friends that are here to speak on her behalf at the appropriate time.
All right. Next one, she made a horrible mistake. This isn't a person, there isn't a person in the world she doesn't love, that loved Christina more than Rita. I don't feel that Rita deserves to spend the rest of her life in prison. People learn from their mistakes. She made the ultimate mistake that day. I believe she will take that off a day and teach people that the dangers of leaving a child in a hot car. I hope that lapse of judgment could result in the ultimate reality. She's an awesome mom and grandmom to her family, which she wouldn't hurt anyone. I'm asking the courts to find her not guilty and let her be and take care of the rest of her family. Again, I'm asking the court to find Rita not guilty. Next one. I'm writing this letter for Rita, my mother. So we've heard from her, Elizabeth Clyde, already. Okay. And you want me to read this letter as well?
She'll speak.
Okay. Letter from a cousin. Rita always wanted to be a teacher. And nothing has ever come easy for Rita. And she fell in love with a boy from the Philippines named Wally. My uncle went nuts. After the first grandchild, things settled down. Rita and Wally had 3 girls, the last being Christina. She supported Wally with his endless years in college and supported the family until Wally could open his own medical practice as a chiropractor. And we met Rita 2 years ago. She's a caring Christian person who loves her family and working 2 jobs to help her husband financially. She cherishes her husband, children, and grandchildren. One of the most caring, supporting persons I know. She's been a flawless as a co-worker and team player. There have been times to date where we would sit and discuss the powerful Word of God, FaceTime, reading the Bible together. She's an amazing woman, influential in her faith and in her life. And this is one from her husband.
He's here as well, Your Honor.
He'll be speaking.
At the appropriate time, you guys wish to address
Rita sat him down to explain the incident. Early in the relationship, it did not change the way I feel for her. I fell in love with her from inside out. She's humble, inspired me to pursue my lifelong dreams, cries herself to sleep. She misses her daughter. Knowing that she will be reunited with her daughter one day, gives her hope and strength. Rita says Larry would never have put Christina in that car if it wasn't running with the AC on. I believe the statement is a testament to her humility. I don't pay attention to the negative, misinformed reports on social media. I have faith in our attorney's ability to present the truth. I plead for leniency. I want my wife to come home, whether it be probation or house arrest. She has problematic kidneys and a history of cancer. The next person met her 3 or 4 years ago. My name was Wanda Clyde, our daughter by choice, Rita's daughter. Shocked when Christina died and shocked to learn the surrounding circumstances. I know she was under tremendous stress being a single parent, taking care of a special needs child. I know this was a horrendous accident and ask for the court's mercy.
Respectfully, Your Honor, I've never seen this done like this before. Respect.
Yeah. What do you want? You want me to review them or no?
Yes, Your Honor.
Every person has their process of doing things. You want me a special way? You want me to review what you gave me?
No, Your Honor.
She was always involved with her daughter. She pushed Christina around the track, welcomed me into her family. This is from a son-in-law. Character reference. Known her almost 4 or 5 years. We met at IHOP. Was honestly the best coworker I've ever had. It was helpful to her when she was pregnant. She's a spiritual and godly woman. Goes to church almost every Sunday. Not a murderer. What happened to Christina was an accident. I've known Rita, and I believe that she thought the air conditioner was on, and this was an accident. She does not deserve this when she's been tortured enough herself. She's a good woman. If she's punished, give her house arrest. From an elderly retired man that's also disabled, who Rita showed him nothing but kindness. He used a walker to get around. She's paid for his meals. Whatever happened to Christina that day was not on purpose. She does not have an evil or malicious bone in her body. And a letter now from the eldest daughter. Is she here? And she intends to speak.
Let me make sure. Yes, Your Honor.
Plead for the judge to show her mercy. Never been in trouble before. pleading for Rita's freedom. I am begging for leniency and understanding, as well as an unbiased, fair trial. House arrest is the ideal discipline. Someone may try to harm her if she is sent to prison. She's already suffered. Punishing her will not bring my sister back. Someone who has helped translating this letter because her English is not good, who apparently runs a restaurant where the daughters would come to eat and spend time with their mother. Has so much love for her child. I know in my heart this was an accident. I've seen Rita cry at work sometimes over Christina. She does not deserve any further punishment. And from a tax advisor, witness her financial struggle in the face of a difficult divorce. Prepared her taxes. She has a heart pure of gold. I'm aware of the charges, and I truly believe it was not intentional, just not thinking clearly at the time. She is hardly remorseful. She's a devoted and caring parent. As a teacher, I was blessed to teach her daughters who are honor roll students. She supported her during her difficult divorce and becoming a single mother, friend for 25 years. A supervisor since 2023. She can run circles around the associates who are young enough to be her children and grandchildren. She's known as a workhorse. Rita has called on me as her spiritual advisor, a pastor at church in Georgia, and she's given her access to her personal life. She loves children, and she has a great support group with family, friends, co-workers. Encourage this person to go to school and finish their education. She would never commit any other crime. Feels as if she's been sentenced already. This one knows her through her ex-husband, who's this person's third cousin. Always quick on her feet. She has good moral character. She's been under pastoral counseling and care. Has frequently shared stories and moments that she and Christina share together, cherished moments. Has a deep-rooted love for her family and wholeheartedly vouch for her character, integrity, and altruistic nature, her resilience in the face of adversity, her unwavering love for her family, and her readiness to serve those around her. She an exceptional individual. And finally, school principal for 8 years. She was a school principal for 8 years. She was transferred in 1996. Thrilled when she was allowed to transfer to her school, continued to work as a first grade teacher. Had good relationships with her students, parents, co-workers. Worked on morning bus duty, would monitor the students. As a math coach. Took her job as an educator very seriously. Volunteered for many things. I had a very loving relationship with her 2 oldest daughters. Christina was born later. And she saw what was placed on Facebook. She's the person who testified, Mrs. Carter. So this is similar to her testimony. All right, I reviewed the letters.
Yes, Your Honor. This is her eldest daughter, Your Honor.
And we'll make all of these letters a part of the record. Yes, ma'am. Tell us your full name.
Ashley Elaine Pangalangan.
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to read my letter, but that's not the best idea here. I just want to tell you a couple of things that would never be known, that I'm not even sure if my mother knows that I know this. But a family friend of ours a couple of years ago told me that one day my mom was at Christina's graveyard, and she was sitting there.
Tell me what you just said.
My mother, Rita Pangalangan, was at Christina's graveyard one day visiting her. I think it was Christina's birthday a couple of years ago. And that she sat in the car and rolled the windows up herself in the heat at the graveyard because of how terrible and awful she felt about what happened to my sister. She tortured herself every day. I have to hear her cry every night when I stay with her. She's not been allowed to visit my babies because of this. She already has suffered so much to the point that she rolled herself up in the car just to see what my sister went through. She's not even aware that I know that.
How long did she stay in the car with the
I'm not
windows
sure.
rolled up?
I never asked, just the thought of it. She's tortured herself. She's suffering. I know it looks awful, but I know in my heart that she never would have intentionally done it. I love her to death. I wouldn't be here today without her. Her love is very strong. She's a good mom. I know, like I said, that sounds cliche at this point, but from the bottom of my heart, she's a good mom. She raised me good. She made me responsible. She made me the woman I am today. I'm a homeowner because of her. I stand on 2 feet because of her.
When did you leave home? What year?
Well, honestly, I never felt like I left.
No, you,
I mean, I have my own house, but I stay with her every other weekend. We're very close.
were you staying with her during this period of time?
Yes, sir. I've been with her every day. I mean, she's lost probably 16 pounds in the past 2 months just because we've been scared to death. I've seen her, I've been going to church with her. I admit I haven't before recently, but I've been starting to go with her now. She's made me more spiritual. She's given me faith that I never had before. And just to watch her in church and raise her hands up and sing and praise God, it's done something for me, because to see her have that strong of faith in her situation means that I can have it too. I just felt like it goes without saying, if everyone in the room could have just hugged her for a couple of seconds, they would know what the verdict should have been. And they just could have held her like she's held me. Thank you, sir. That's all.
Thank you.
Do I need to state my name again?
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Elizabeth Pengelingan Clyde. I am the second daughter, as you already heard. If anything, I hate the word victim, because if anything, my sister and I, we were the closest, besides my mom, to Christina. And we're here standing by her side. We refuse to believe any of the media. We refuse to believe what anyone else has to say, because we know her intention, and she loved Christina so much. She made bad mistakes. She got up. She hung out with people she shouldn't have hung out with, but that mistake should not define the rest of her life. We've already lost our sister. Please don't take our mom away. She has worked so hard, and the 4 years she has suffered, and everyone thinks just because she got married and she earns a living and she got back on her 2 feet, that she's outliving her life, but she has lived with regret every single day. She's worked so hard. The 2 jobs that she's had, she's made manager in each of the jobs without people even knowing her background. Her character has pulled her through so much. So we're just asking for mercy and understanding and compassion for my mom, please.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
My name is Anthony Leisure. I am Rita's husband. Rita has been an inspiration to me, Lord. Sir, he really has. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. She really has. And I pray that you give her leniency and allow her to come home.
When a person is convicted of murder, there's
I allow you.
the minimum sentence.
Will you please allow
The minimum
sentence, sir?
is 30 years. That's the minimum sentence.
Your Honor.
The maximum sentence is
Yes,
life imprisonment.
Yes, sir. Your Honor, when I watched this video, I believed in my heart the car was running and the air conditioner was on. And we hired an attorney, and I watched the second video. And then all of a sudden, I seen a scene that wasn't in the first video. I seen her going to the car.
Yeah.
And
I
I
hope
don't
you're not
believe-
here to try to relitigate the case.
No, sir, I'm not.
Because you didn't testify.
Sir?
So we don't need your analysis of the facts of the case.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I asked the court for leniency.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name's Taylor Clyde. The woman in the black blazer is my wife. I'm the favorite son-in-law. I don't want to debate or bring any attention to any of the facts that happened on the day of question, but I do want to testify of the character that I've seen in Rita throughout my time of being in her family. It was always lavish Christmas gifts. It was always even with everybody else. Everybody had to have the same amount, the same ridiculous amount that I never got growing up. I always get solid hugs every time we would get together, whether it's at church, whether it's at holidays. There was always food that we would eat together, and I'd always have a ton to bring home. And after the events of the day in question, we got the chance to move her into a property that kind of was adjacent to my parents' home, which I thought was kind of cool. In her bedroom, right above her bed, was wasn't a shrine, but it was a beautiful memorial to Christina, with a blanket that was, I believe, Dora themed, and it had Christina's name on it with a nice poem. There were several pictures of her hung on the wall, and I am not a parent, Your Honor. I don't have children at this time in my life, so I have no idea what it's like to lose one. But I don't know how she was able to deal with the pain of going to bed every night and waking up looking at the wall of pictures and not completely against her will, reliving the events that happened and living without her. I don't have children yet, Your Honor, with my wife, but I would very much like to have their grandmother in their life when they come. So I'm asking for leniency as well. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
My name is Tijuana Tucker. I'm a co-worker of Rita's. I've known her
Where are you? A co-worker where?
at Walmart Distributions. Yes, sir. I trained Rita there, and we became friends, work friends, and we break together. Rita moved up very quickly within Walmart. She made a huge impact on a lot of the younger associates. Got a lot of them permanent that came in through temps. She loves her family. We talk about her family a lot. She shared a lot of videos of her and Christina with me on breaks, where she had an in-ground pool put in at home because Christina loved water, and she liked for Rita to throw her into the water. Almost every day we laugh and talk about our families and things, and about the situation at hand. And it was a very tragic situation. And I personally don't think her nor Larry intentionally murdered that baby. They made a bad choice.
Well, you haven't been here listening to the law regarding murder, have you?
Sir?
You haven't been here listening to the testimony and the law regarding what constitutes murder.
I don't know her.
Have you been here?
No, this is my first time here.
Your first time coming
Yes,
here?
sir. Yes, sir. But Rita's a good person, hardworking. I be with her anywhere between 10 and 12 hours, 6 days out the week at work. She's a joy. She's a joy. She's a sweet person. She definitely made a lot of impact on a lot of the young ladies at the job. A couple ladies was going through some domestic violence, and she helped do that. We all got together and went to HR and got people involved to help a young lady move with her 2 children, and Rita help with appliances and stuff, and we got groceries for her and stuff like that. So she's been advocating and talking to the younger ones and stuff like that. Again, I just ask for leniency on her. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, please read and make wish to address the court in a second, but in mitigation, obviously, we're not trying to provide any excuse as to what happened that day. That in the common thread that what we presented in this courtroom is an absolute tragic situation, one that unfortunately has us here today. It compounds one tragedy to another. Minimum sentence. She and I have discussed that at length as to what the sentencing ranges are. It's my position that the minimum day-for-day sentence is essentially a de facto life sentence based on the life tables. And given what my position is that we have compelling mitigation for being a loving mother, being a supportive mother, having no prior criminal history. The testament of character, there's a lot of things outside of this one day. We are not defined by the worst thing we've ever done. And in respectfully requesting leniency and mercy, I do believe that this would be appropriate in this case to receive the minimum sentence in this case. And I understand that that's still essentially a life sentence.
How old is she now?
53.
53?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the minimum sentence for murder is 30 years.
That's correct.
So 53 plus 30.
Yes, Your Honor.
If she gets the minimum sentence.
Well, as Your Honor heard, she served this community for 25 years as a teacher, two-time Teacher of the Year. Again, it's just a very, very tragic situation. When I was brought onto this case, she was working as a manager at IHOP, and then because of insurance, took the job at Walmart, and that 8 months received a promotion and became a manager. And we had one of her other supervisors here, potentially as a character witness, that was absolutely wanting, and Your Honor read a letter from him about just how critical she is and how great, not only as a person and an employee and everything in between. Her family, to say she has incredible, overwhelming family support is minimum. She has that. I know there's no words. That was part of what's that. There's no words that we can say other than we believe it's appropriate in this case, giving the compelling mitigation. Not to go into the legal part, because I think that's the next thing for another matter. But with that, Your Honor, I just feel, given what we have, this is the sentence that would be appropriate. The minimum day-for-day sentence would be essentially a de facto life sentence. And given the fact that the biggest punishment in this whole case is not the sentence that can be imposed, is the lifelong sentence she's given herself for the loss of her child. That can't be overstated. None of that was lip service. None of that was courtroom drama or manufactured. She is tortured with the loss of her child. That is real. She has real remorse. She deserves leniency and mercy, and the minimum sentence in this case, Your Honor, specifically.
Your Honor, what happened that day was the worst, most tragic mistake of my life. It's the worst day of my life. I was negligent. I told my attorney, well, I hired him almost a year ago, that a negligent homicide was one of the charges. I would have pleaded guilty, took everything myself, and we wouldn't have been here today. Because I was. When I put my baby, or I married with that baby in my should have taken that down there. I should have busted out that window when the car was off. I don't even know what that. I should have busted out that window. I should have got my baby out of it. But it was nothing against her. And I will live with that for the rest of my life. Nobody loves Christina more than I do. I was working 4 jobs to get a wheelchair fit for her. Just had her fitted for a brand new top of the line wheelchair. Had her clothes ready to school. I would have never hurt my baby. I can't believe that I was convicted of murder. Because what happened was not murder. It was negligence and something that whether I'm in prison or home, I will regret the rest of my life. And I can't wait to be with my baby girl again. Please, Your Honor, you can consider giving me a minimum house arrest, anything. I don't care. I don't have much time left anyway, and I would like to spend as much time with my children and grandchildren as I can. And you know that I would have never, ever stood outside that car and watched my baby suffer. I loved her more than anything in this world. And I'll tell you what, Larry loved her too. Larry would never have hurt her. We were arguing that day, and we put ourselves in front of her. I lost the old track of time, but it was not murder, it was not intentional.
Well, you know, you didn't write the law. And you weren't thinking about the law on that day, were you?
And like I said, I was negligent and I own that, and I have for 4 years. Everyone who I talked to, I told them I should have made better choices. I should have gotten that car like Larry wanted me to, and I should have taken my baby home. And there's not a day that goes by that I know there's not. I don't. Because she would be here now, and I just taken her home. The home that I just had totally renovated for her. Her bedroom, her bathroom, the whole house was all for Christina. And as soon as I got out of jail, I could own a mortgage because it wasn't a home anymore. I didn't care about it. Because no place is a home without permanent.
Anything else you want to tell me?
We love her. We love her so much.
All right, response by the state. Yeah. The conduct of the defendants in this case, true, is being represented now by the defense. It's not a traditional murder. It's not where you pull a gun and shoot someone in the head. But your conduct can become so extremely reckless that it constitutes a willful disregard for human life and constitutes murder. To place the child in a burning car in effect and walking away is murder. To leave a child in a car for 6 hours under the circumstances that occurred in this case is murder. It's not one of the situations that we see, and there have been studies most recently where people forget about the child, believe that they have dropped the child off for daycare and various things. But that's not this situation, where there's absolute total disregard for the child, considering that the two of you were there around the car any number of times without doing anything to save this child's life and contributing to the child's death. And all the good things I've heard today, being a teacher, being a concerned person, being a wonderful friend, a person of faith. That wasn't a person there on that day when you all were on this drug binge, at least as described by Mr. King. And I've said it before, the people we see in court are typically not the people that were out on the streets doing the things that landed them in court. And it doesn't get any worse than this as it relates to a mother and a child and a person with the mother dealing with the child. So the offense that you committed was murder, and that's all there is to it. Of course, you would love the opportunity to turn back the hands of time, but you can't do it. Of course, you will continue to suffer for what happened to your child, but for being strung out on meth. And I've seen it time and time again. Was it methamphetamine we're dealing with? Yeah. But for methamphetamine and dealing with it, neither of the two of you would be here. But those were decisions that you all made. And to the extent your minds were just totally contorted, and I don't know the minds of a person on meth, but I paid close attention to the witness who testified convincingly about the effects of methamphetamine on the brain. It's as if you didn't have a brain on that day at that time. And, we're hearing about this mistake and bad judgment and all, I see it all the time with children, people who we deal with all the time. I call them children, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, people who do these same types of things, kill people because they're strung out on drugs, high on drugs. And, a life sentence for them is more than the lifespan that you're talking about, because they're going to prison at ages 20, 21, 22, 23 for life. And you don't have the excuse that they might come in here with. Of course, none of it is acceptable, but they will come in strung out on drugs, parents strung out on drugs, all kinds of things that play into them going wayward, going astray. And for you, a person who had a good reputation in the community, to throw it away chasing drugs, and then coming and asking me for leniency. And I'm trying to balance who's more at fault here, really, Mr. King or Ms. Panalangam. I mean, it's almost a toss-up. Mr. King put the child in the car and, per the video, just didn't care anything about the child. Just left the child there to die while they're pursuing each other. It's just so, it's almost unbelievable. How could you all do such a thing? And you could do such a thing because you're hooked on drugs, hooked on meth. Pardon? Mhm. Yeah, that makes you having less an excuse, less justification. Your mind wasn't screwed up as you're telling us now. Yeah, a mother who's not under the influence would leave their child in a car under those circumstances for 5-6 hours, who knew the child was in the car and knew the child had been in the car for that period of time, and drive off and leave the child. How could you? Anything further?
No, thank you. Not as an excuse, but to better clarify her position. Her position is that was the first time she ever tried. That's what she said. That she didn't have a pattern of conduct of abusing the drugs, but that was the first weekend, and ultimately led to the worst mistake of her life.
Yeah. It's his first time as well.
No, you are testified, and I'm not waiting idle.
Yes, sir.
He did say, it's certainly not his first time. He had tolerance, it's an act, and he told the court that, he told ladies and gentlemen, no. If it's any benefit to Mr. King has accepted responsibility from the outset. When I'm talking about the possibilities, he accepted responsibility, and he's accepted responsibility. I know it's going to be imposed on him one way or another. He can do it gracefully enough. He has done it gracefully, accepted verdict for. I think he deserves it. Your Honor disagrees with us.
It doesn't help me clarify in my mind who is the most culpable out of this situation, or are they equally culpable? Whose conduct was the most extreme? The mother who abandons her child in that setting and does nothing to rescue the child, who chooses Mr. King and her own pleasure over the child, or Mr. King, who throws the child, or he didn't throw it, places the child in the back of the car and shows no concern, compassion, or anything for the child, and in effect joins with the mother in the treatment of the child. though it wasn't his child, he initiated his role in it when he placed the child in the back of the car and when he did nothing to get the child out of the car.
On behalf of Mr. King, in response to your
Yes, sir.
inquiry,
Yes, sir.
all my dealings with him and all my conversations with him, he doesn't want me to point the finger or some way to minimize his involvement or his culpability by saying, well, she's worse. Your Honor's heard what he's done. He owns the conduct. He was candid on the stand.
Yeah.
He's accepted
Yes, sir.
graciously at the table. He's not
And
upset.
I appreciate that. You've said that repeatedly, and I accept it, and I appreciate that.
But when Your Honor asks me who is more culpable,
In my mind, I'm trying to make that determination because I'm going to have to sentence each one of them to a period of years. They might get the same. One might get 30, one might get 40, one might get 50. They might each get the same.
to the extent Your Honor was inviting me to point out the reason she's more culpable, Mr. King does not want to do that. He owns his conduct.
I understand. Thank you. And I'm not attempting to pit one against the other. I'm just, yeah.
That's how remarkable position. And we agree.
All right. Mr. Solicitor.
I've tried to stay quiet, because I'm sorry.
I don't like people to stay quiet on me.
Before the case comes to you, it has to go through. They're both here together, okay, because of that. I couldn't make that decision. I could not decide which to work, because the more I looked at the video, which I have done, I assure you, more than just about anybody, even in this corporate, I just kept getting madder and madder. And honestly, I could not make a determination who I was more angry at. The man who is putting the child in the car and just stands there, or the mother that abandons the child even before we get to that situation. And I've heard the support groups that these people have, and Your Honor, like you, been in a courtroom for a long time. And we deal with a lot of people that don't have any support group whatsoever. And to have it and to ignore it, I don't think that's mitigation. I think that's aggravation. Sir, I cannot tell you which one is more culpable. Quite frankly, from my standpoint, I don't feel for either one.
What is the penalty for great bodily injury?
20. That's 0 to 20.
Yes, sir. And I looked it up before. I just wanted to be sure. All right, Mr. King, if you'll come around for sentencing. Mr. King is sentenced to the court on the offense of murder that you be committed to the State Department of Corrections for a period of 32 years. Great bodily injury, the sentence is 20 years. Sentences will run concurrent with credit for any time that you've already served.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you all. Ms. Panalangan, a lot of folks have said a lot of good things about you and a lot of positive impacts that you've made on their lives. You're not being sentenced to death. You won't be facing a firing squad or a gas chamber or electric chair. your life goes on, but it'll go on behind bars, and you'll still have that same opportunity to make a positive impact on the lives of other people who you encounter. And I hope you do that. I simply cannot fathom a mother treating a child the way that you did and allowing that to happen to a child, to your child, the child that you birthed. Yeah. I don't know if the child at some point became a burden. I don't know what the circumstances were that would lead you to placing the child in that situation. And as if you left and went to Atlanta, Georgia, or maybe we'll say not Charleston, to Myrtle Beach, and went there and got in the beach in the water a few hours, and then came back, and then decided that it's a frantic situation. You did it. You have to live with it. And as bad as the conduct of Mr. King was, yours was worse, in my mind. And, you know, you can talk about intent where you have rational thinking minds, but extreme recklessness brought upon by drugs and alcohol. As we said, intoxication is not a defense and not an excuse. That's what, in effect, you're asking, and it's not. Sentence of the court is that you be committed to the State Department of Correction for a period of 37 years on murder, 20 years on great bodily injury. Sentences will run concurrent and you'll receive credit for time served. Do we have the number of days of credit that they're entitled to?
39.
Receive credit for 39 days. And Mr. King, do we know how many days he gets credit for? Did Mr. Other guy left, the lawyers? Does anyone know? I'll just have that calculated by the Department of Corrections. Yes, sir.
Under the green case that I presented earlier, the one that potentially could be triggered, is certainly what we've argued. Based on that, there could be only one punishment. I understand it's the current sentence, but under that case, even the conviction itself is an actual considered punishment. I know you're on prior rules regarding that decision, but based on that, we've also argued that that applies.
So, and you might be right. And that might pertain to a single incident, not a continuous course of conduct over many hours. What says the state?
I think it is. I think the law is clear on that. That there are two separate sentences. You're saying this is it, Your Honor.
All right. Well, I want to commend everyone for a good and thorough job in presenting your best case that you could present to the jury. And the jury has spoken, and now the court has spoken. And I want to thank everyone for your participation. And court will be adjourned. And thank you, jurors, and you stick around. You don't get.
Woo! The court has spoken. The jurors have spoken. Old girl and her Walmart friends and family thought they were going to smooth the judge. I like how he was toying with them, like he was trolling them. I don't know who's worse, him or her. And I started to throw it back in his face if I had been there, like he always says, have you been paying attention this week? So do you guys think that the judge made the right decision? Because I have zero issue with it. And the way he came down on her was wonderful. I like how they were acting like she's got so much responsibility at the Walmart DC that all the Walmarts are going to shut down with old girl in jail. Woo! I don't think that's going to happen. Walmart, IHOP, you name it. Some Filipino guy named Wally. Somehow Wally got drug into it. You know, Wally's sitting there going, I got rid of that bitch a long time ago. For real. And not one person got up to talk about Christina. And old Larry, nobody gives a shit about Larry. Not one person showed up to advocate for Larry, but that's okay. They're going to make new friends in the jail. That's where they're going to be for a long, long time. Long, long time. You guys have a great weekend, 3-day weekend. I'm putting together a fun members live for us on Monday with some true crime trivia and some other stuff. And if I don't see you in Discord or one of the Facebook groups over the next couple days, I'll see you back here on Monday. Have a blessed and safe Labor Day weekend. Thanks for jumping in here and honoring Christina. You guys have a great one.